We continue to look for some answers in the death of a woman whose body was located along a northeast Calgary pathway earlier this week. At approximately 4 a.m. on Monday, December 9th, we were called to the Nose Creek pathway located near the 1100 block of 32 Avenue Northeast for reports of a woman in medical distress. The victim was transported to hospital in life-threatening condition and unfortunately later succumbed to her injuries. The identity of the victim can now be released as 23-year-old Jelisa MASCHKI of Calgary. An autopsy was conducted earlier today by the Office of the Chief Medical Examiner. However, Jelisa's manner of death remains undetermined. At this time, it's unknown whether Jelisa was the victim of an assault or a tragic accident. Although we're only in a few days into this investigation, we currently have very limited evidence and are relying on the public to help put the pieces together. We're exploring all possibilities in this case in hopes of providing answers for Jelisa's loved ones. Anyone who have had contact with Jelisa on Sunday night or Monday morning, we would like to speak with them as you may be able to provide us with some answers. I'm willing to take any questions you may have.
Do we know why she was in that area that evening?
We don't know, no. We know she left her home at about 7 o'clock the night before. So that's the big questions that we have. Where was she doing at that time? Actually, from the time she left to the time she was discovered.
Can you speak at all to the nature of the injuries? What makes it difficult to identify between possibly having an accident versus an assault?
Yeah, the injuries are obviously significant enough that it caused her death, but not significant enough to determine, like, there's not multiple injuries that would lead us to believe that a serious assault occurred here. So that's really one of the odd parts of this investigation that is making us scratch our heads and trying to figure out what happened.
Was there any kind of physical evidence in the scene there that would indicate it was an assault in any way?
Nothing that sticks out, no.
So there's no indication from the autopsy that this was an assault?
I don't want to get too in-depth into the injuries to try to protect the investigation. However, there was nothing that stuck out to say one way or the other that it was a significant assault that occurred, but it can't be ruled out either.
Is there any indication this could have been targeted?
No information that points to this being a targeted attack.
Would that be an area where Jelisa could presumably go for a walk or anything like that? Was it a long way away from her home where she was found?
It would have been a significant walk, but we also know that she was left home the night before, so she was gone for a long time. She could have been coming from or going to any sort of location, right? The pathway is common way for people to get around down there. The time of day, obviously, it's not as populated or busy.
Yeah, and just given the fact that she was found and first responders were called at 4 a.m., was there any indication that she had maybe been there for some time before that?
We think it was probably close to around the time she was discovered, just based on some of her clothing and stuff that was there. It was a cold morning, but not super frigid like it has been in the weeks previous.
And I imagine, so this happened in a residential neighborhood. You might rely on doorbell cameras, or a lot of more witnesses might be around their homes. But we were down on that pathway yesterday, and there might not be a whole lot unless someone happened to be in the area at the time.
100%, yeah, and that's one of the roadblocks we're hitting right now. There's not a lot of cameras in that area. It's a little bit remote, so we've tried to canvass as much as we can, but we're not coming up with much.
Was that surveillance picture for leaving home?
Correct, yeah.
Was she with anyone, or are you looking for anyone who might have been with her that day?
That's what, yeah, if she wasn't with anybody when she left, we know that. We've spoken to people that she knows and that she was living with, but didn't leave with anybody that night. So I think it's very important if we can determine anybody that she may have been with on Sunday night leading into Monday morning. Those are the people that we'd like to talk with. Who else was she with? Did she leave with somebody else later in the night? Did she meet up with anybody?
Are there any groups that you might have the call out to in particular that might have connections with a place she works or the place she frequents? They might see this tonight and think that it's probably best that they can reach out to you.
Well, we've talked to family and the people that she was living with, so I think we've covered off some of that, but there's the unknown, who she may have been associating with that we don't know, or friends of hers that might be able to fill in some gaps that maybe hasn't been shared with us. So that's the kind of information they were looking for.
What about the people in the neighborhood, the ones that regularly use the pathway? Is there any reason for them to be worried that this could happen to them as well?
Nothing that we can see right now. Like, there's still too many questions what we can't answer, which makes it difficult to answer that question as well, right? It's a very odd incident, just given where she was located, nothing else really around there. Yeah.
Sorry. I know you said you didn't want to get too in-depth into the injuries, but like, could you give us anything at all from what you've seen from the autopsy?
No, I can't really release any of those details.
Can you perhaps just say maybe what's changed in terms of, like, this was initially put out as a serious assault, believed to be a serious assault, and now possibly a tragic accident? How can those almost be mistaken, if you can?
Yeah, when the original scene when we show up there, we have somebody that's lying on the ground, unconscious, looks like, well, was in medical distress. They're transported to the hospital. There were injuries to her. So that initiated our investigation. That's what we began investigating. And as it comes to the autopsy, and as we start learning more information while she's in the hospital, the injuries kind of are isolated to one sole injury, which is making us scratch our heads now, and maybe not as significant as they looked at the onset.
You're aware that injury is like head, body?
Sorry, I can't release that right now.
And at any point, have you guys had a person of interest or anybody in custody?
We have talked to one person on the original day. That person's since been released, and that's it for now.
Can you share anything about that person?
Not at this time, no.
Just for anybody using that pathway, you're still trying to figure out whether or not, something nefarious happened on this pathway, or if it was an accident. If someone commutes on that path every day, was there a message that you would share to them? Should they have a heightened level of concern?
I don't think there's a need for a heightened level of concern at this point, but maybe if they've seen suspicious things or people that have alarmed them or caused some concern, we'd like to hear from them for sure.
Is there any other locations that maybe Calgarians might have CCTV video or might have seen something that they should be keeping in mind?
No others I can think of right now. We're communicating with our transit partners. We know that she frequently uses transit, so we're trying to cover that off. And then once we get that, we'll be reviewing that as well.
When you say tragic accident, are we talking overdose, are we talking slip and fall?
Those are both possibilities, or maybe a combination of the two. We're not ruling that out, but can't definitively say that either. So I think what we're trying to do here is cover all our bases, and in the event that this is an attack, we want to make sure we're doing everything we can, but we're not ruling anything out right now. So we're looking at all potential possibilities.
To follow up on that, is there any indication that, like in a toxicology report or anything, that there was substances?
Well, following an autopsy, it takes us months before we get the actual toxicology reports back, so we won't have that yet.
Anything else to indicate that there might have been?
Nothing that I can say right now, no.
And we had heard that she was potentially homeless, so that's false. We know she was living in a location, and they were helping her with her life skills and getting back on track, and there was some counseling involved. All right, any other questions?
Sorry to miss this, but do you have an idea which direction she accessed the pathway from?
No, it could be going either way, yeah.
So you haven't ruled out, because there's limited ways to get there.
Correct, yeah.
That pedestrian bridge.
Yeah.
So any direction is still a possibility. You haven't ruled out here.
Correct, yeah. We're looking from Sunday night at around 7 to 8 p.m. until the next day, so that's a big time frame. She could have been coming or going along that pathway. We're looking at both angles.
Just quickly, there is a chance at the end of the day that, this might not end up being a criminal matter. We have talked about this for several days now. I think, most Calgarians might be aware of the story, but it could end up that way at the end of the day.
Yeah, we're trying to find some answers, and this one's a little bit perplexing off the hop, so.
Maybe it's an obvious question, but if someone does know something, what's the best way to get in contact with police?
They can call us through our non-emergency line, Crime Stoppers. If they call our non-emergency line, they'll be able to put us right in contact with one of the investigators. And that's generally the best way, because then we can ask some follow-up questions or garner a bit more information.
And just the CCTV photo, are you able to say roughly where that photo came from?
That's from her leaving her residence. Yeah.
The area of this?
Let's just say Southeast Calgary. Okay. Thank you.